What's going on, guys? So we're back for our quest for horsepower on our bright yellow S10 ZR2 here. You guys haven't already, please take a minute and hit that like button. Most importantly, hit the subscribe if you haven't done that. It helps me out a ton and it costs you nothing. Now anyhow, we have our engine is in the truck now, spoiler alert, but it wasn't all sunshine getting it there. There definitely was a couple complications we ran into, and we're going to cover all of that, some unexpected fabrication, but we made it, so stick around, it's coming up. Okay guys, so step one here is getting this engine to physically fit in here. Since you've seen this, we did a little bit of cleanup. I power washed everything. Pretty much the first thing we have to make sure is that the engine mounts are going to line up on this. And that is actually asking a lot on this truck. So there's a little bit more involved because it's a ZR2, and I didn't completely know this until I got into it. So what makes this different, this is what the engine mounts look like. They're these little pedestal things. They come out, and then it has those really crappy engine mounts, the actual rubber mounts that if you've seen the last video, they just like fell apart when I touched them. So we're not using those. We're going over to the 2.8 liter V6 mounts, which is pretty much what all of the V8 swaps utilize because they're cheap and they're better than those old ones. But to make that work, and then the engine mounts on this engine are in a different place as well. They're up front, whereas the V6 is like right in the middle of the three cylinders. You have to get these adapter plates. They would bolt into there, and then they would move the location up, and that's like the only, there is no straight adapter for these weird kind of mounts. So I got the 4x4 mounts, and I have to just basically make them work. So that's why I cut those off. And there's a lot of things that's all got to be lined up here, but let me show you what those mounts look like real quick. Okay, here's our plate that's going to weld on top of it. This is the driver's side, and this is going to give me my 3 bolt holes that my adapter plate will go on top of that. And then this has adjustability built into it just all over the place. And then those 2.8 liter engine mounts that are way better, just a typical clamshell. Okay, that's gonna bolt on there, or well, be welded on there like that. And then those plates would go, and that would move the location up even more. And that's going to get us bolted to our block, which is like the first thing we have to do before we can do anything else. So, show them. This is the 1500 4x4 pan. If you're doing this on a 2-wheel drive S10, that pan will supposedly work out just fine. But the way this is cut right here, it's going to hit like everything pretty much. So we had to go and get a different pan. I had this sitting in here just to make sure I was getting all my measurements. Look at the way that baby's cut. So pretty, and it's even cut right there. Now that I got this out, show them the fitment in there. You guys, if you've seen the last video, you know I had a hard time just getting that engine out because this really needs to go over all this stuff and then dip down there. I can't have any slope right there because that axle is actually going to come back up. It's down right now. It is actually from Summit Racing. It's a Hamburger Performance, which is a fun name to say. It has some bonus features in it, which is actually kind of cool. It's got a crank scraper and like a windage tray built in. And then it also even has, if you can see in there, some like trap door things to basically a bunch of oil control stuff built into it. So yeah, not too bad, and the price wasn't too bad. I'll throw a link for that in the description, because you're definitely going to need one of these. That pan's not going to work even on a normal 4x4. All that stuff's still going to be in the way. All right, moving on. Okay, here's one last snapshot of the underside of this beaut herself. So kind of unexpected, but here's the pickup we got to change, because the way that pan's shaped, and it sucks. I already put a little tack weld on there. I did have this perfectly set up for the stock pan, but I got to try to get this little tack weld broken off here. But that's going to come out, and then this has to go in, and that goes in there. It actually bolts down to the pump over here, so that's kind of cool. And that's going to go like straight down because of the way that's shaped. So I got to get that done, and then button all this back up. Shouldn't be too bad. We're looking pretty good so far. Well, it never fails. As soon as you say something's going pretty well, suddenly it stops going so well. So is our new pickup is a smaller size. I think this is like 3/4 of an inch, and this is 5/8 or something. There's like two common sizes for these. This is the bigger one. I figured since I had the stock pump, I had the smaller one. I didn't really remember, because this is all the stock stuff. I never had to buy parts for it. Okay guys, so we jumped forward a little bit, kind of a lot of it. So I also had to take the baffle thing off. That's actually bolted to the crankshaft. I got the pan on, and we actually got it sitting in the truck. So this is kind of our first sneak peek of this sitting in here. It looks really weird because the body's lifted so high, it looks like this motor's like tiny or something. But I'm double checking motor mount positions. The cool thing is I spent like almost half a day yesterday just doing measurements, and it paid off because this is pretty much right where it needs to be. The only thing I found out is that it just needs to be welded back a little more than what I originally thought, but it's looking pretty good. So, and then these have adjustments, so I want to get it to where I think it's supposed to be, and then be able to use those adjusters. So these are done now. I just wanted to show you guys before I got them painted up and stuff, because it's easier to see them like this. But we basically used angle iron to kind of like make some support to put them on, and it's all built off what these like pedestal things were originally made out of. Lobbed those off, figured out the angles and stuff, put those on, welded those, then welded the plates to that. Not to mention I have the nuts that are welded on the back of here. So it's pretty much the way that's supposed to be, and they are plenty sturdy, so I think we're set. I tried to do it. It's a really weird situation, but I tried to do it in the strongest way that I could with what I had. So I think we're sitting pretty good. They're still really weird. I don't know. Hopefully you guys, if you're doing a 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive, whatever, these work for you, because they look really weird. This one's is really low and this one is really high. So, and that's where it needed to be in for this engine to fit like perfectly in here. So but for the Z, I pretty much just ran through this real quick, because this is only if you have the Z, apparently you're gonna have this issue. So moving on from this now. Okay, so we're back to trying to figure out the oil pickup for this. And so here's the one that they sent me with the pan, and it looks like that has about that much distance. So I searched high and low on the internet, and I put in all of the specs that this one supposedly had, and I knew looking at the pictures it's not the same, like, at all. Let me put that back on there. That sits there. This one sits basically like over here. So that's not gonna work. And this one isn't gonna work. So looks like we gotta make this one work. This is the 3 pickups that I have to choose from. And we need to make this guy work somehow. So between the 3 of these, let me deal with this one here. Okay, between the 2 of these, I'm gonna make this work. So I have the distance that I need here, but the angle is just wrong. So I'm gonna cut and chop this tube to where it's going straight down like this one is. And then I'm gonna cut this bracket off of here, cut this bracket off of here, move this bracket onto that bracket. Easy as pie. Boom, done. The way it should have been when I bought it. So that's welded up. This is moved over. Got all the measurements and sizing figured out. Done. Easy. So the oil pan's back on, and hopefully that's the last time I have to see the bottom end, because as much as I like everything I did in there, I'm tired of looking at it, and if I have to see it again, it's probably because something bad happened. So before I flip this over for the final time, I am going to put on this adapter. It goes right in here one way or another, and this is just like so you can put a normal like oil filter straight on here like the older engine blocks. But I'm actually going to use this. That's going to go on so I can get another adapter that is a remote oil filter mount. So that way that will put my adapter on, put that adapter on there. That'll let me run hoses up. And then on the S10, it has the oil filter. It's like underneath the front bumper area. And then that has the splitter that goes to the oil cooler and the bypass valves. And I just want to use that. I don't know if I use the one that came with this engine. I don't think I can even get to it in this area, because the filter would come out this way. And then it has the lines. So I'm just going to avoid all that, get an adapter, get the lines. I already have the thing in the front of the truck, and we're just going to run it that way. So I'm going to put this in, and then we can flip this sucker over. Okay, check it out. So engine's right side back up, and I got the headers all wrapped up. So got our heat protection on, because there's no way I was going to be able to do this once it's in the truck. So got that stuff on, and then we're figuring out how we're putting our chains on this, because we got to do like a little bit of kind of Tetris situation. We have to get this off the stand, we have to lower it down, get the transmission attached, reposition the chains again so to be more balanced with that extra weight, and then we'll get this truck backed out and hopefully lower it in there for the last time. So we still have some stuff here, but that can be done in the truck. But just the really important stuff, like I made sure we had the right sensor on here, and the little ground wire spots, ground strap, the things that are going to be really hard to get to once it's in the truck. So okay guys, so engine and trans are once more. Well, actually first time for these two, so they've been married. Torque converter, bolts and flex plate, all that's in there. I do have this weird gap going on here, and I kind of knew this was going to happen, and I've asked some people about it and they don't seem to think it's that big of a deal. I just don't like how basically half the transmission's just not really doing anything. This is pretty much the worst point. Everything is getting better now. Everything's going to start to go together. We're putting pieces together now, so it's pretty exciting. Everything that's back here or has to go on here, I'm just trying to get all of that on, and then we can throw this sucker in here. So I'm going to try to bust this out here. Going up. She wrote. Okay, so I'm gonna put the starter on here. So just trying to keep myself from having to bend over any more than I have to. And then we gotta get the fuel lines put on this, which I think I'm gonna have to figure out the bracketry. Check it out. She is in her place. Engine mount's in. Transmission mount is not in, but it's sitting on the cross member. I gotta come back, and these adjustments that's in here, it's just like slightly off to one side. It needs to come forward a hair, just little minute things, but we're really close and I think we're set. So with that being said, I still have a lot of cleanup to do. I just wanted to get this in here, and I mean, she's looking good. She's sitting there on her own weight. Irene's putting the hoist away, and the goal was to just get this in before this day was over, so we just barely made it. So I'm gonna leave this. I'm gonna have to hook back up to move this, make those little adjustments, but she is there, so that's very excited. So that's a big step right there. So you can tell our adjustments are all over the place right now because we just kind of dropped it in there. But yeah, everything looks really good. The steering's we already pre-measured so much of this, so, and it paid off. So one of those things, this was definitely a measure twice, cut once, because this is not the thing you want to cut twice on. So okay guys, it has definitely been a decent amount of work to get to this point, but it's worth it. So we have all of our big stuff is done, so they're sitting comfy in their homes. Now we still got a lot of little crazy stuff to do, but we're gonna get it figured out, and we're gonna walk through it. We're gonna go through the rest of the wiring. It's all coming up, and hopefully a first startup of this is coming up. I'm excited about that. Not to mention, we're gonna have to drive this thing at some point, and that's what it's all about. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing. Hit that little button down there. In the meantime, check out these other two videos over here. And as always, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.